Oh, hello there. My name is Maya, and I'm a junior in the college majoring in English. Today I'd like to talk to you a little bit about some research I'm conducting in the psychology department. I started this research last year as an independent study, and I'm continuing on a volunteer basis. The name of my project is Worry in Daily Life. The project uses cell phone technology to study worry as it occurs in real time. Before I get into the nuts and bolts of the project, I'd like to talk a little more about worry and why this is an important phenomenon to study in the first place. Worry has been defined as a chain of repetitive verbal thoughts concerning possible future negative outcomes and their consequences. Worry can be thought of as a combination of content, what worry is about, and process, how it unfolds over time. Chances are you've experienced this phenomenon many times in your life. Chances are everyone you know experiences worry at least somewhat regularly. Which brings me to my next point. Worry is universal. While the worry most people experience is mild and relatively benign, worry can also be pathological. In its extreme form, worry is the key symptom of a mental illness known as generalized anxiety disorder, or GAD. People with GAD suffer from uncontrollable and debilitating amounts of worry. Which brings me to my next point. Why is it important to study worry? If we can learn how worry operates and what differentiates normal, everyday worry from pathological worry, we can begin to develop better treatments for GAD. Given this, our study sought to answer a few questions. How do worries differ from regular thoughts in content? What factors contribute to the persistence of worry over time? A lot of research on this topic has been done in the past. We know that people with GAD worry about many of the same topics as healthy controls, although with greater intensity. We also know that there are some subjects about which people with GAD worry more. So, how do we know all this? In the past, psychologists have used three main methods to study worry. The first is to collect data using trait questionnaire surveys. The most common is the Penn State Worry Questionnaire, or the PSWQ. High scores on the PSWQ indicate a personality prone to worrying. Studies have corroborated these results, finding that those diagnosed with GAD score significantly higher on this measure than do healthy controls. However, while the PSWQ does a good job of capturing overall levels of worry, it fails to capture fluctuating levels of daily worry. The second method consists of laboratory inductions of worry, essentially bringing participants into the lab, instructing them to worry, and seeing what happens. Though this method has provided psychologists with valuable data, it is unclear to what extent worry induced in the laboratory mirrors spontaneously occurring worry in the natural environment. To address these concerns, a number of studies have used daily diary methods to assess worry in daily life. In these studies, participants are normally instructed to record their thoughts in a journal at the end of the day. However, a limitation of this method is that filling out the diary at the end of the day often results in memory recall biases. Even when participants are instructed to fill out the diaries over the course of the day, they often delay it for hours, once again calling memory into question. In fact, one study embedded computer chips into the diaries and found that almost 90% of participants completed the journals after the fact. To address this issue, our study uses ecological momentary assessment, or EMA, to capture data in real time. The real-time nature of EMA reduces recall biases, and its implementation in participants' natural environments avoids the artificiality of laboratory-induced worry. Because advances in EMA technology are so recent, few studies to date have used EMA to assess worry. In the past, PDAs have been used to capture data. However, smartphones possess several advantages over PDAs. For example, many adults in the US already own smartphones and are familiar with how they function. Our study capitalized on the fact that many Penn students already own smartphones. After perfecting our questionnaire in the winter, we collaborated with programmers at Cornell to develop a mobile application, which we called Metis. Throughout the day, Metis signaled participants on their phones to fill out reports about their thoughts. We recruited 42 undergraduates to participate in the study. participants were compensated with credit towards their introductory psychology courses. This is what's known as a sample of convenience, and it's pretty standard procedure in psychological experiments. There were 3 blocks of time during which participants could be signaled: morning, afternoon, and evening. When participants were signaled, a visual notification appeared on their screen. This notification was paired with a tone or vibration. At the signal, participants were asked to fill out a short survey. Those who indicated that they were worrying at the time of the signal were asked to complete some questions related to worried thought, whereas those who indicated that they were not worrying completed an analogous assessment designed to capture their non-worried thought. For both types of assessment, thought content was probed with 2 questions. The first asked, "What is the thought about?" Participants were then presented with a list of potential thought topics and asked to check the box next to each topic to which the thought pertained. 12 thought topics were listed, such as school or work, friends, leisure, and health. The second question required an open-ended response and asked participants to briefly describe what they were thinking about. Three minutes after submitting the first assessment, participants received a follow-up prompt asking them to complete a second, similar assessment. They received another follow-up signal 3 minutes after completing the second assessment, and a final signal 4 minutes after completing the third follow-up. Thus, participants completed 4 assessments over a period of approximately 10 minutes, for a total of 12 assessments per day. The questions participants were administered depended on whether they reported worry at the current signal, as well as whether they had been worrying at any of the previous signals within that 10-minute block. For example, a participant who reported worry at the first signal, then denied worry at the second signal, would be asked questions about what contributed to the termination of that worry episode. In contrast, a participant who denied worry at both the first and second signals would be asked about non-worried thought. Data collection lasted for 4 days, after which time participants were allowed to delete the application from their phone and were asked to fill out a short debriefing survey. This novel method allowed us to collect data in real time. By doing so, we hoped to reduce the recall biases associated with other methods of data collection. To our knowledge, this is one of the first times smartphone technology has been used to study the phenomenon of worry. So, what did we find? Well, it's no surprise that Penn students worry about school. By a long shot, that's what most participants reported worrying about. What's really interesting about this data is that there's a lot of variability at an individual level. For example, we can see here that one participant reported 100% of their worries about school, whereas another reported no worries at all about school. These results indicate that different people worry about different topics. Thus, when treating GAD, it may be beneficial to assess which topics are most worrisome for patients in order to best inform treatment plans. In addition, there were certain topics about which participants were more likely to have worried thoughts, and other topics about which they were more likely to have non-worried thoughts. For example, participants were more likely to worry about schoolwork, finances, and future plans, and more likely to have non-worried thoughts about leisure activities, community affairs, and other topics not listed elsewhere in the survey. Students may be more likely to worry about schoolwork, finances, and future plans because they perceive the consequences of these problems as having very negative or long-term effects on their lives. These results corroborate other studies that found that people often worry about perceived current or future problems in their lives. There are several reasons why participants may be less likely to worry about leisure activities, community and world affairs, and other topics. Participants may worry less about leisure activities because activities such as extracurriculars are seen as sources of enjoyment and relaxation in participants' lives. On the other hand, community and world affairs may be seen as less relevant compared to the immediate pressures of daily life. Finally, minor matters such as being hungry or opinions on celebrities may be seen as temporary and relatively inconsequential, and thus not something to worry about. In later analyses, we assessed the persistence of thoughts over time. We found that overall, worried thoughts were more likely than non-worried thoughts to persist. Ever have a deadline looming or a conversation you're not looking forward to? In addition to the data collected, an important product of this study was the mobile application itself. As far as we know, Metis is the first app specifically designed to monitor worry in daily life. In the future, we hope to refine the app to make it more user-friendly. We also hope to eventually enroll clinical populations affected by GAD in order to learn more about pathological worry as it occurs in daily life. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this video made you as excited about Metis as I am.